Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Brazil. As you can see on the right hand side of your screen, we carry an 8-point lead into this game against Oeste in the Brazilian Championship. I'll just have a quick scroll over to the schedule as well, just to show you that this is the last game before the end of the transfer window. So once we're done with this game, we'll be definitely going past that day and then looking at all of the transfers that have taken place throughout the transfer window during this point of the year, halfway through the summer transfer window for most European clubs, and obviously the mid-season transfer window for the likes of us. We will be having a look at Newcastle, seeing how they've done in the transfer window. And I've already had a little look, and there's not been too much movement, but it's interesting that they have brought somebody in, and we'll be having a look at how they're doing in the league and all that good stuff. So today it's Inter versus Oeste, Reds versus Whites. Have a look at the matchday squad and who's going to be playing for us today. Immediately, Nico Lopez is looking like a candidate for replacement. His stamina isn't at 100%. It has been a really tough run of games, but also his form not looking too great either. So I think today is a good day to give Rafinha a start on the right-hand side. Now, Carlos I would replace with Otamendi, but Otamendi has played a few games and his stamina is absolutely depleted, so I don't think it's a good time to be playing him. In fact, I'm wondering if it might be an idea to give him a rest altogether. I think I probably will. I think we're going to go with Diego Carlos and hope that we don't fall afoul of anything. I'll bring Charles on at the base of the midfield to give Rodriguez a break, and Patrick can come on for Velasco. I prefer to replace Velasco with Patrick because he's a much more defensively minded player. But also, like, if I just highlight him and then go over to Velasco, you can see that really the only massive advantage that Velasco has over Patrick is his speed and dribbling ability. Everything else is there or thereabouts, and in those positions, I find that a player who is able to pass the ball well that's more of an asset for me as for my playing style than having one that can run really fast. Having said that, we have had a lot of joy with Eddie Nilsson in that position, and I'll definitely be looking to bring him on at some point during the game for Nonato if things work out that well for us. So that's going to be the lineup for today. I'm kind of tempted to give Romero another go, but I think we'll stick with Marcelo Lomba. It has been a real fixture congestion filled time of year for us. We've had games every 3 or 4 days, and it's really taxing the players. We're having to use the squad. I'm glad that we do have a fairly decent squad, and you can tell from the fact that Patrick is a competitive player. He's rated at 67. Again, we come back to this conversation about Brazil maybe not being the best in terms of quality, but it certainly is a fun league to play in, and that slightly lower quality does result in being able to build interesting squads with real strengths and weaknesses. You can pick up a lot of players who are very quick but aren't necessarily very technical, and they can still be competitive in this environment. So here we are. We're playing at home today against Oeste. 8 points clear at the top of the championship, but we want to keep this pace up, take some of the pressure off of the players, allow them to concentrate on the Libertadores, and hopefully we can get this vaunted treble done and dusted. It's entirely possible that we will be moving at the end of the year to another team. Once you've dominated the league like it looks like we might be doing here, there's not really much need to stick around. Oh, hello, Rafinha! Oh, just wide of the post. Goalkeeper doing a very good job of getting in the way of the player and the goal. It was a lovely little dinked pass over the top there. Rafinha was alive to it. First time finish. And I think the goalkeeper just got a touch on it, although we'll find out soon whether it's a goal kick or a corner. Yes, the goalkeeper did make a vital stop there. Right, here's Mailton with the corner from the left-hand side of the pitch on his right foot. It will be an in-swinger. Hulimar's underneath it, gets his head to it, and it looks like another deflection. It's going to go behind for another corner, I believe. I could be wrong though, and in fact I am. Goal kick. Up the pitch, there's two Inter players on one Oeste player, and the ball is won. Oh, Rafinha. He's taken off the ball unfairly, the referee says. For a second I thought he might be able to burst through the middle, but the Oeste players doing a very good job of ganging around him and cutting off that line of attack. So then he ended up having to cut inside, and well, unless he's been given for an elbow, I'm not sure that there was much wrong with that tackle. Here's Schurz, the centre back, free kick specialist. He loves a crack from this kind of range, and he's done it again. Beautiful free kick from Schurz. The Inter captain with a beautiful curling effort into the top right hand corner. My word, I don't know if the goalkeeper had much of a chance with that one at all. And so, near on 7 minutes in, Inter already have the lead in this game. What a fantastic free kick from Schurz. Charles does very well to get in the way of the ball there. Oeste just starting to probe the outside of the area a little bit, but here's Nonato, who's won the ball cleanly, into Guerrero, who takes a heavy touch, and the defender manages to win the ball, and it finds its way to Conrado, and now Gardin. Back to Conrado. Moves it out left to Mazzinho. Nonato takes the man instead of the ball, and is given a yellow card. This referee very, very happy to dish out the yellow cards in the early stages of the game. I don't think that was really yellow card worthy. I'm not entirely sure that the other tackle that gave away the free kick was yellow card worthy, but here we are with two yellow cards having already been brandished in what has not been a particularly bad-tempered game. A little bit of a mix-up in the Inter defence, gives possession back to Este. That's too heavy of a pass. It's going to go out for a goal kick. Yeah, 15 minutes in, we already have two yellow cards, one for each team. Didn't think it was that kind of match myself. I think this referee is just very trigger happy where it comes to the bookings. Here's Patrick, picks it up quite deep in the middle of midfield, bringing it forward. He's got support outside of him with Iago, finds him. Iago looks to try and burst past the player, but it's a very good tackle. Back to Denham. Now, Julie. Conrado to Mazzinho. Mailton again, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get another yellow card brandished here, because this referee loves a booking. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that tackle. Took the ball, the players collided. It's a physical game after all. Anybody that watched the Wolves versus Arsenal match from the other day would be amazed that these free kicks were being given when the Arsenal players were being physically bundled off of the ball. Rafinha, off the post. The final pass wasn't what I was looking for. Really, with the defender split between two players, the through ball should have gone straight to Rafinha there instead of to Hulimar first. Guerrero playing the wrong ball. But it is another attack under the belt of Inter after 25 minutes. It's been pretty much one-sided game. Here's Charles, base of the midfield, into Nonato. Spreads it across to Patrick. Iago out left. Mailton into Nonato. Back to Mailton. Rafinha. He just couldn't quite get it out from under his feet in time. Here's Nonato. A real range, long range, speculative effort. which he never really got going in the direction he wanted to. Guerrero back into Rafinha. Rafinha, oh, he spilled it, and Hulimar. Fantastic predatory instinct from Hulimar. He gambled on there being a spillage, and he benefited from it. Brilliant switch of play back to Rafinha from Guerrero. And Hulimar was first to the ball. It's in the back of the net, and Inter have doubled their lead now. It's 2-0 to the home team. Easy as you like for Hulimar. He wasn't an expensive signing for Inter, but he's already showed that he's worth his weight in gold. And I wouldn't be surprised if a team came calling for him that they would need to spend an awful lot more than the transfer fee that Inter had to pay to get him here in the first place. He really has become an integral part of this team. Long ball forward, Diego Carlos gets something on it. Falls to Mailton, who plays it forward to Nonato. Goes back to Mailton again. They're using this right flank very well to attack here. Rafinha involved in both goals, of course. The left-hand side, not so much, but Iago is always a presence and a danger out on this left-hand side. And he's getting a fair amount of the ball. It's Patrick. Moves it back to the centre, but it's intercepted, and Oeste have the ball back, and they're going to look to try to halve the Inter lead now. Petrus with the ball forward. Iago picks it up though. He's always so reliable defensively. Not always the best at passing though, and that has been evidenced by that pass there. But here he is winning the ball back, showing what he's great at. Rafinha back to Guerrero. He loses the ball. His first touch has not been good today. Well, that's the end of the first half. Inter with a commanding lead going into the second. It's 2-0 to Inter here, thanks to Schürrle and Hulimar. Rafinha very much involved in both goals, whether it be setting the second one up or in the build-up to the free kick that was one that eventually was scored by Schürrle to give Inter the lead. Here are the stats at the end of the first half. A dominant performance at home by Inter. 7 shots, 5 on target. Oeste haven't managed a single shot yet. Their manager and their fans are going to be a little bit concerned about that. They're going to need to show an improvement in this second half if they're going to get anything out of the game. Unusually, it looks as though Inter are going to be making some changes at half-time. I think the manager is just feeling so comfortable here that he doesn't mind making these changes. That being said, we're going to leave one on the bench just in case there's an injury or we desperately need to get somebody off of the pitch. But no need to risk Nonato picking up a second yellow, so he comes off, keeping an eye on future games. And also squad management is so important at this stage with so many games to play in such a short amount of time. Patrick, Mailton, Rafinha, Trellis. He's such a strong player, Trellis. Look at that, he just burrows his way through the defenders. Cross into the box, Hulimar, oh, just over the crossbar. Goalkeeper had it covered, I think. Mohamed with the goal kick. Schürrle underneath it. Surely he'll win the header. Doesn't quite manage it, actually. Long ball forward. Over the top. Nobody on it. Goes out for a goal kick. Iago was chasing it, but nobody from the other side thought they could catch it. Schürrle switches over to Diego Carlos. Two centre-backs moving the ball effortlessly between them. No pressure on them whatsoever. Here's Rafinha into Trellis. Tried to hook one around the corner to Hulimar, but his body shape didn't allow him to get purchase on it. And in the end, it goes straight to the goalkeeper. Here's Mazzinho on the right-hand side. Sorry, the left-hand side for Oeste. It's the opposite for Inter. Hulimar. Over the top for Mailton. Can he get onto it? No, Diogo, very neat and tidy, picks the ball up. Gets it back to the goalkeeper and it's hooked forward. And eventually, after a little bit of miscontrol and poor passing, it's back in the possession of Oeste. Another long ball forward. They seem to feel that their best option is to try and hit their big men further up the pitch, but so far Inter have showed that that's not really going to work out for them. They are more than capable of defending aerial assaults. Here's Carlos, misses out on that one. So for once the tactic for Oeste has worked. Mailton in on Mazzinho, wins the ball but concedes the throw-in. Played back to Romero. Will he look to get across in himself? He might do. Patrick and Romero having a ding-dong battle in the right back position. Here's Charles into Hulimar, plays it back towards Iago. He's got two men ahead of him. Will he use them? He cuts it into Hulimar and makes a run forward, but instead they decide to switch play. Here's Rafinha. Loses the ball again, but it's a poor clearance from Oeste. Here's Patrick. Trellis. He just tried to make the run and couldn't quite. Rafinha a little bit slow on it, but the ball ricochets around the area, drops to Mazzinho. Patrick's right on him though, and he could have an opportunity to put Trellis through here. Trellis through to Rafinha. Great save at the near post from the goalkeeper. Hulimar, in the middle of the penalty area, is remonstrating with his teammates. He feels that there was potentially a pass on there, and he could be right actually. Can't blame Rafinha for going for it though. He was probably blind to his teammate's position. Mailton now with an outswinging corner. We've already seen him try the in-swinger. Hulimar underneath, can't quite get anything on it. Iago picks the ball up in the wide left position, plays it more centrally to Edenilson. Into Rafinha. Back to Edenilson. Out to Patrick now. Patrick has a shot and it goes in. A rare goal for Patrick. And this has really summed up the performance of the team today. Look at this, he really put some dip on that shot and the goalkeeper just couldn't quite get to it. It wasn't the best placed shot in the world. I think the goalkeeper, looking back at this, might be a bit disappointed that he didn't do better. He was slightly unsighted by the players ahead of Patrick. It's a great goal for Patrick, not so good for the goalkeeper. So that's 3-0, and surely any hope of getting points out of this game for Oeste are dead in the dust. All that Inter have to do at this stage is play the game out, try and retain that clean sheet. They've had such a good defensive record in the league this year, only conceding 5 goals so far in the league, which is less than half of their nearest rival. It's a nice little flick from Patrick. Here's Rafinha. Couldn't quite manage to get the ball away from his opponents. And now Oeste with Mazzinho on the counter. And they've won themselves a free kick. Goalkeeper believes that there was a little bit of foul play involved there. I mean, it's the slightest of touches if it is a foul. If they're going to give away fouls for that, I'd much rather that the AI have some sort of animation triggered where you grab a shirt or actually give it some in the tackle, not just these namby-pamby, oh, you caught my toe, it must be a foul kind of things. Here we go, Hulimar loses the ball to Beatco. Charles with a commanding header. Rafinha. They've got men ahead of them. Hulimar. If Trelez has carried on that run, he might have got onto the ball. But instead the ball comes back to Rafinha, who does his best to compete for that header. He's not the biggest player on the pitch, but he's got heart. And that is something that you can say about most of these Inter players. They have heart, they're willing to fight for the ball. It's something that the manager likes to see in his players in general. We saw that in his previous time at Newcastle and now here at Inter. Again, it's a nothing free kick, really. If you saw that on a professional football pitch in real life, I think you'd be surprised that a foul was given. It's a poor pass. Not that it matters, because the game is over and Inter walk away with 3 goals and 3 points to their name. Oeste not happy with their day's work, and they really have no right to be happy with their day's work. It was an absolutely torrid performance by the away team. I'll have a look at the stats in a second, but I'd be surprised if they registered a single shot on target here today. And in fact, they didn't even manage a shot, let alone on target. Inter with 9 shots today, 7 of them on target, 3 of them resulting in goals. Is a good conversion rate for the home team. Lots of interceptions, decent number of tackles. They won pretty much every category today except for free kicks. They gave away 4 free kicks during the 90 minutes of this match. Although they did score with the 1 free kick that they were given. So again, it's a tale of efficiency from Inter. 58% of the possession, but so much more of the game. Excellent performance from them. And you'd have to say, on performances like this, how can you talk about anyone else being potentially better than them over the course of a league season? Hulimar getting the man of the match performance, although for my money Rafinha really should have been in the consideration for it. He did so well today. Not a first team regular yet, but he's building on it, and eventually I think you'll see that he will replace Nico on the right hand side of that attack. But for now, he's still a bench player, but he's doing very, very well indeed. He's making the strides he needs to make to put himself in a position where he can try to claim a regular starting berth. The other ratings today, Diego Carlos and Marcelo Lomba can feel a little bit unlucky to have been rated so poorly. I think it's just down to the fact that they didn't have too much defending to do, honestly. Lomba especially, not having to face a single shot. So, how can you rate... Oh, pardon me. How can you rate a goalkeeper who's not had anything to do in the game? So I guess the default score for those players is a 5. Here's the rest of the scores from today's matches. Sao Paulo keeping up the chase with a 1-0 victory over Vasco da Gama. You can see here that the top 3 really are starting to stretch away from each other as well as the rest of the pack. Sao Paulo 8 points behind Inter, but they themselves have a 7-point lead over Botafogo in 3rd, and Botafogo have a 4-point gap between them and 4th placed Ponte Preta. And so the last day of the transfer window has commenced. And we don't have any more transfer business to do today, so I'm just going to skip the entire day. Very happy with the squad. Don't have any transfers to worry about coming in. don't really want to consider selling anybody, so it doesn't harm to just skip the entire thing. And now that we are past the last day of the transfer window, we can start looking at what has happened as far as players and their moves. Just have a quick look through here just to make sure there's nothing interesting that we need to have a look at. And now we can go into the transfer market news database and we can have a look at who has moved for how much and from who to who. So immediately, Serge Aurier at the age of 16, a regen version of Serge Aurier, the right back, has moved from Tottenham Hotspur to Wolverhampton Wanderers. They've got a decent defender on their hands there. Just clicking through these, trying to see if there's any names or any big transfers we should talk about. Candreva moving from Inter Milan to Fiorentina. He's a right midfielder. Again, another regen. £8 million. So he's going to be someone for sure. Chris Smalling, regen of Chris Smalling moving from West Ham to Swansea in a £4.5 million deal. And as we continue to scroll down, Iker Casillas, you will have seen that on the news screen as we went back to the home. Iker Casillas moving from Bayern Munich to Lazio for £9 million. It's a nice deal for them. West Bromwich Albion selling Kieran Gibbs. Looks as though it's Huddersfield Town he's moved to. Huddersfield have been fairly busy in today's transfer window. Gibbs and Bertrand, both left backs, both going to Huddersfield. So they obviously wanted to fill a gap there, and they've managed to do so with a couple of very decent young prospects who will develop into serviceable Premier League fullbacks for sure. Tom Cleverley moving from Watford to Aston Villa there. Let's speed this up a little bit. Joe Hart moving to Juventus. Wow, okay, well, I suppose at some point he's going to be Juventus worthy before he trails off again like in real life. Cenk Tosun moving from Everton to Bournemouth in a £2 million move. That's an interesting one there. And Steve Mandanda, who has regenerated, has moved from Marseille to Bordeaux in a £3.6 million move. Right, let's move down to what we were looking for here. Gael Clichy moving to Leicester from Arsenal, 6.8 million. It's decent business. Cuadrado moving to Valencia from Juventus, 9.3 million. Mark Rojo, or is it Marcos Rojo? I can never remember. He was actually a free contract, and he's moved to. I don't recognise that badge. I wish the names were underneath the players. But let's have a look if there's any Newcastle transfers here, and I know that there is definitely one, although it may have actually fallen off the bottom of the list. It has. It's actually fallen off the bottom of the list. I hate that that happens. There's only a limited amount of space on the transfer database, so we're going to have to go into Newcastle's team information in order to actually see the transfer that was made. And you can see right there at the bottom of their subs bench, Vargas, who is a right midfielder, although he can play as a left wing forward as well, and that's going to be very important in the way that the manager has them playing. Let's go into the squad list so we can see more detailed information about their players. So he's a Swiss winger. He's right-footed, but he can play on either flank. And also there's a few other players that they've brought in as well. Emerson, a right back, to give Juan Fran and Henriks a little bit of competition. Dummett has regenerated and has found himself back at Newcastle. Travers is a third choice goalkeeper who's been brought in to give some competition to Schubert and Gunn. And we were already aware of Eggstein. Interestingly, Bodmer, who we never really used particularly during our time at Newcastle, has found himself a role within this team, which we will get into in a second. I'm just going to scroll up and just make sure that there weren't any other. No, there aren't any other transfers of note to talk about with Newcastle. So we'll go back into the game plan. Yeah, that's right. And you can see here, Joachim Love loves to play a 3-4-3, which doesn't really benefit a lot of the players and the type of squad that we built. Of course, we went with four across the back with attacking fullbacks. So we had a left back and a right back in the team naturally, and then three in midfield and three up front. Now he's retained the three up front. And one thing that this has done is it's allowed him to play more of our wide attacking players. So here you can see Xavi and Nkunku are playing at the base of midfield, which is interesting that he's gone with Xavi with Nkunku. I imagine Nkunku is playing more defensively and Xavi's getting forward a lot more. Almiron is playing on the left-hand side, as we have seen he's able to do. And Ribery is on the right hand side there. Now, normally Ribery would only be able to play if he was playing in the positions of Vinicius or Saint Maximin, but with this formation, he is actually able to play with them, which gives this Newcastle team a lot more attacking intent, perhaps one would say. But it does leave them more vulnerable down the flanks as far as being able to actually win the ball in those areas. That's why they've gone to three across the back. Interestingly, Dennis Zakaria being played as a centre back in this formation. I would have perhaps played him alongside Nkunku to give this team a real steal through the centre of the spine. But I have also seen, and this is where I was talking about Bodmer earlier, I've also seen them using Bodmer as a central defender as well. I wonder if they're using them in that position because that's almost like a ball carrying centre back who can bring the ball into midfield and almost play as a third midfielder when they need them to. That does leave them very light at the back if they are suddenly counter-attacked down the wing. They've only really got two players in defensive positions, so that leaves them a little bit vulnerable. But I feel very, very sorry for Henriks and Balotore. And hang on a second, I don't see Willems. What's happened to Willems? We're going to have to find Willems, everybody. Everybody, I don't know what's happened, but I think they've sold him. Let's have a look for Willems. Maybe retired. He was one of the older players in the team. Right, Jetro Willems. They just let him go. They just let him go. Ridiculous. He's a free agent. What the hell? I don't understand that at all. I don't understand that at all, especially because if we go back to Newcastle very, very briefly, and apologies, this is quite a long episode. If we go back into team information and go back to Newcastle, they don't have any other. I suppose Paul Dummett is in the team, but really, like, is he ever going to be as good as Willems? I don't think he is. So Balotore is obviously the first choice left back when they play with a left back. I think perhaps Willems is one of the first casualties of this change in formation. And that's a real shame because Willems was an absolutely fantastic player for us during our time at Newcastle. It's a real shame to see him on a free transfer. I'm kind of tempted to sign him. I know he's not South American, and I know we're leaving at the end of the year. Maybe I leave him there at the moment, and if we find ourselves a new club, if we do leave Inter at the end of all of this, he could be a free transfer signing that we could bring in, perhaps. I don't know. But anyway, that's pretty much it. The only other thing I wanted to do is go into competition info just to show you that although I can't find a way of looking at last year's league table to see where Newcastle finished, I can tell you they didn't win the Premier League. And the reason I know that is because we can go down to the Community Shield and we can see Liverpool and Crystal Palace are the two teams participating in the Community Shield. For those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with English football, the Community Shield is very much like the European Super Cup or the French whatever that's called, the cup competition that starts the season. It is a cup which is contested between the winners of the league championship and the National Cup. So in the case of England, it would be the winners of the Premier League and the winners of the FA Cup. Or if the winners of the two competitions are the same, whoever was the runner-up in the FA Cup is then the second participant in the Charity Shield, or the Community Shield as it's now known. So Liverpool definitely won the Premier League. I can't see Crystal Palace winning the league. And I guess that means that Crystal Palace either won the FA Cup or they were beaten by Liverpool in the final of the FA Cup. But either way, Newcastle were not Premier League winners. Now, where did they finish in the league? Well, I don't know exactly, but what I can tell you is that if we go into competitions again and we go into international competitions, we can go down to the Champions League. We can have a look at who is participating. And where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There they are. The left-hand column, about halfway down. Newcastle United are representing England in the Champions League alongside Manchester United, Liverpool, and Tottenham Hotspur. So that was your top four last season. Don't know what order it was in, but that was the top four last season. Oh, Leicester City got in as well. I wonder. Oh well, that must mean that one of these teams from England won the Champions League last year. Interesting. Okay, so hmm. I mean, my best guess would be Liverpool, but who knows? Maybe Newcastle did. Wouldn't that be something, eh? Anyway, um, it's a shame you can't look back on previous years' competitions. Maybe if you guys watching can tell me, is there a way of doing that? Can you look at previous seasons' records for competitions that you weren't involved in? Like if I wanted to find out who the winner of Serie A was last year, is there a way of finding that out through all of this? Um, I don't think there is necessarily. I've looked as much as I can. I can't seem to find anything that would point to it, but I could have just missed it much in the same way as I missed the whole request transfer button, which was so obvious. It was staring me in the face for ages. Let me know in the comments below if that's the case. Like if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and next time when we'll be taking part in, I think probably the Libertadores again. I'll see you. Bye bye.